Hello again everyone, welcome back to DIY, The Art of Wood. I'm Jeremy. So one of my favorite creators on YouTube is DiResta. Now for those of us who are in the maker community on YouTube, whether you create how-to videos like myself, or you just enjoy watching them, there's a good chance you already know who DiResta is. This guy truly is a master at his craft. Or, actually I should say, he is a master at his crafts. Jimmy works with just about every type of material and method you can imagine, and maybe even some you can't even imagine. He truly does some amazing things on his channel. I highly recommend you check him out if you haven't already. In fact, I'll put a link in the description below this video to his channel so you can check him out if you like. Now Jimmy's actually become part of my regular Saturday and Sunday morning routine. When I'm sitting down to eat my breakfast and drink my coffee, I usually flip on YouTube and watch DiResta, among others, just to kind of see what they're up to and see what kind of projects they're working on. Now for me personally, DiResta, among others, is actually an influence and an inspiration for what I do on my channel. I know you often hear of musicians speaking of other musicians that have influenced and inspired them and the music that they create. Well, content creators on YouTube, we kind of inspire each other and influence each other as well. And so that brings me to the point of this whole video. You're probably asking yourself, why is he talking about DiResta so much? So the reason I'm talking about DiResta specifically today is a while ago I watched one of his videos on tape tips and tricks. Now when I say tape tips and tricks, I don't mean tape measure, I mean actual tape. Over his career he's either picked up or developed a number of little shortcuts and methods that you can use tape to do various things that you've probably never even thought of. I even picked up a few that I'd never even thought of by watching this video. He really is a brilliant guy. But anyway, there were two tips and tricks on this video that stood out to me specifically. And the reason they stood out to me is I have a similar method that I do, but I think my method is actually a little bit less wasteful than his and achieves the same result. And the reason that I'm calling out DiResta specifically on this video is because he is such an influence and such an inspiration on me and what I do. If this video ever got back to him and he tried my method of what he does and he ended up actually liking it and using it in his career and what he does, if I was able to teach DiResta how to do something, well, you know what, that would be a real big thrill to me. So the first trick that stood out to me on Jimmy's video was when he started talking about packing tape. Now the problem with packing tape is when it's on a loose roll like this, not on a dispenser, when you go to grab it and use it, most of the time you end up spending 20 minutes scratching at it with your fingernail trying to find the end of it. And I'm even having a hard time finding it now. There it is. So that ends up being just a huge waste of time. Let's see if I can get this started here. So what Jimmy does is when he's using packing tape like this, after he's done using it, he'll kind of scrunch up the end of it like this to create a little bit of a tail, so that when he goes to use it next time, he can find the end of it really easily. Now that works fine for finding the end of it, but to me this seems like a waste. You're wasting, 8 inches of tape every time you use the roll. So what we do at my work is a similar idea, but a little bit less wasteful, I think. So what we do is when you have the end of the tape like this and you're done using it, instead of scrunching a whole bunch of it up like Jimmy that you have to cut off, what we do, and I'm going to bring this in a little bit closer here in a minute, is we just kind of take the end of it, maybe about a ½ inch or so, and just fold it over back onto itself. And what that does is it creates just a little bit of a pull tab here at the end. And I'll bring that in a little bit closer here. So that makes the end of it really easy to find. You don't waste 6 or 8 inches of tape every time you use the roll. And you can actually just leave that on there too. So when you go to tape something up, kind of put the tape on it like that. And then when it comes time to remove it, you've got a little pull tab right here to just pull it right off. So Jimmy, give that one a try if you see this video. Now the second trick that stood out on Jimmy's video to me was what he does with his ratchet straps. Now it wasn't really tape related because he doesn't use tape, but I guess he threw it in the video because he uses a product similar to tape. And what Jimmy does with his ratchet straps is after he's done using them and he rolls it up nice and neat, he'll take a little bit of stretch wrap, which is basically saran wrap, and he'll wrap it around the ratchet strap a few times to keep it nice and neat and rolled up like this. Because I don't know if you've ever been on a job or seen the back of somebody's truck where they have all their ratchet straps just in a pile. They get all tangled up like Christmas lights, and you end up having to spend 20 minutes to untangle them before you can even use them. So if you roll them up nice and neat like this and use Jimmy's method where you wrap it with a stretch wrap, it'll keep them nice and neat, and then when you go to use them, all you have to do is just kind of unwrap the stretch wrap and they're ready to go. Now this method works, but to me there's two problems with it. One is you waste stretch wrap every time you do that, and two, you've always got to have a roll of stretch wrap on your truck or in your toolbox. Now I developed a similar method that does basically the same thing, but it doesn't waste anything. So after I'm done using a ratchet strap, I roll it up nice and neat like this, and I grab a little tiny bungee cord. Now you can get these in variety packs at Home Depot or any hardware store. Just get the little ones, and what I do is I'll hook it around part of the handle, wrap it around a few times, and then just hook it around the other side of the handle, and it keeps it nice and neat like that. And the added bonus with this method is these bungee cords, they last forever as long as you don't lose them, and you're not having to waste stretch wrap every time you roll up your ratcheting straps, and you don't have to remember to bring stretch wrap with you or keep it on your truck or in your toolbox. And so that brings me to my final point here. Now obviously this video wasn't made just for Jimmy DiResta. These are great tips for anyone and everyone, especially when it comes to ratchet straps, because there's nothing worse than going to grab your ratchet straps and they're in a big jumbled mess. So whatever method you use, roll them up and keep them nice so when you go to use them you're not wasting a bunch of time having to untangle them. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.